Hello and welcome to this tutorial on using the job costings function in SignLab. In this session I will show you how to enter a new record in this database facility and how to fill out the various fields which will help you establish a uniform pricing system within your company. The finished job cost notes can be attached to your visuals and then emailed to your customers for evaluation. The notes can help to outline details of the jobs to be produced, like the materials involved or any specific colours present in the design. The Job Cost Notes function is launched by going to the File menu and selecting Job Cost Notes. There are several sections to look at here, and to start I will show you how easy it is to set up a new client. The first task is to enter the name of the company in this field. With that done, I can click Add. Now I click on the Edit Address button, and then in the window that appears I can go ahead and type entries in the individual fields. So starting with the address, city, country, and finally a postal or zip code if required, and I can now click OK. Now, as you would expect, I can move on to the next section and fill out the contact details for the company. As well as enabling me to keep a record of the jobs I have done for a client, this system works really well just as a general database, enabling me to get a customer's phone number or email direct from SignLab. Okay, so with those fields created, my new record is set up. Now any future job done for this company can be costed by returning to the job cost notes, selecting the client from this drop down, and then entering the details for that specific signage to be supplied. Okay, I will now exit out of here and open up the sign I have created for my customer. I will use this sign as my example and demonstrate how to complete the other fields in the job cost notes function. So you can see my sign is just a simple design for a new shop front. One of the key points to remember when costing a new sign is the amount of time that was spent on the computer. This element of sign production can largely be overlooked by the customer, but it's often the most time consuming part of the operation and must be accounted for in the final quote. To help you keep track of the time spent on a design, it's good practice to use the time sign function that can be found under the Help menu in SignLab. The next time you start a design for a customer, use the time sign function by simply clicking the Start button. You can pause the timer if you are dragged away for long periods of time by clicking Stop, and then continue when the work on the computer begins again. Once you have finished your design, make a note of the time spent creating the design so you can add this to the relevant field in the Job Cost Notes section. Okay, I've finished the design work for this job, so I can now go to the File menu and select the Job Cost Notes. The first task is to select the customer this design is for from the list of current companies. So I'm going to select Aromatherapy. This is the client we just entered. However, if you have a completed design for a client for which no record currently exists, it would be just as easy to enter the details for them now in the same way. So with the client selected, I now have all the relevant address and contact details in place, so I'm going to go ahead and enter the order number for the job and the name of the member of staff who took the initial order. The order number details and indeed the pricing structure we will create in this next part of the tutorial are all for example purposes only. The figures used are to show how to complete the relevant fields and are not suggestions of the prices you should be using in your company. I now need to complete the job ticket. Here I will enter a job name and I'm going to call it Shop Front Sign. This will help me recall the details should I need to refer to them at some point in the future. Below are all the fields of the job ticket, and to fill them in I must first click Edit. I will now complete this table and then explain my entries. Okay, I've entered a job number in this first box, but alternatively you could enter a job name. You may find it more useful to enter the same name as the job was saved under on your system to make it easier to locate in the future. In material type, I have entered both the name and quantity of the vinyl I will print on and the clear laminate to be placed over the top. This will enable you to work out a cost per meter of your chosen material. I have entered medium in the complexity field. It's not essential you put anything in here, but it may help you develop a system where you can calculate a cost based partly on how difficult you feel a job is to achieve. This job is a full print, and so no cutting time is required. It will be one solid panel, so this will eliminate any weeding time also. I have entered 10 hours for the production time. This is not including the computer time, nor the time it will take to travel to and from the job. I have used these figures to work out a labour cost, so it's worth remembering how many staff members this production time relates to. I believe the production and erection of the sign to the customer site will take around 5 hours, however this will be with 2 people carrying out the task. Therefore the total time equates to 10 man-hours. The site where my sign is to be erected is approximately half an hour's travel time from the sign shop, however again I will be sending 2 members of staff, so to account for this and the return journey I have entered 2 hours here. The design took around 1 hour to complete by 1 member of staff, so I have filled in the computer time box to reflect this. I estimate my print will take around 50 minutes to complete, and although I will calculate my ink and materials cost, it's worth remembering each print means a little wear and tear on your device, and this should be reflected in any quote. Finally, in the quantity I have entered 1. With the main fields complete, I have been able to work out the costs. For this example I will be speaking in terms of unit costs. You can interpret this into whatever currency you use. My materials costs come to 220 units. This includes the frame and substrate, as well as any vinyl costs. For my labour, I am assuming that each man-hour costs me 10 units. I have simply times this by the number of hours required to complete the job, and this includes travelling and computer time. Having done all this, I have arrived at a selling price, and this will give me a clear indication of the profit margin I can hope to achieve. The last field here lets me specify an intended delivery date for the signage. With these fields complete, I can now click OK. In the last 2 sections of this ticket I have entered some notes about the frame to be used, and here details of specific colour matching the customer has requested. This finalised job ticket means I have a detailed record of the costs involved to produce the sign. Used regularly, it will be far easier to build up a consistent pricing structure within your company. I could leave the file on computer now for future reference, but it's also possible to print the job ticket as a full report. This can then be used within your company as an order sheet or supplied to the customer to give them a better understanding of the job you will undertake for them. To print the job cost note, simply click here. If you are printing the ticket for the customer, then it's possible to remove any sensitive information you may not wish them to see by ticking the box next to those fields. When sending a job by email from SignLab, it's also possible to include these notes, and you can watch how to do this in another tutorial. Have a look at the job cost notes function yourself and see how simple it is to be efficient and professional when calculating job costs in SignLab.